Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. We are back for NFL Reaction Mondays. We got a lot more reactions to go over. A lot of stuff happening in Madison. The Bucks, we'll get after all of it. We'll start at the top. Green Bay with a big win over their rival, the Chicago Bears, yesterday. 20-19, the final score. That was not a game that I felt that Green Bay deserved to win in any sense. But it was a blocked field goal at the last second that was able to prevail Green Bay to their 11th straight victory over the Chicago Bears. It kind of just felt like it was written in the stars in Chicago. You almost feel bad for Bears fans at this point. I didn't even cheer when they blocked that field goal. It was like, no way they did it. Like, I didn't even say yes or anything because I had been so beaten down by how bad the defense looked on that last drive, like those last couple of plays that Williams was able to get off. There were a lot of negative feelings going through my body at that time. And then they blocked the field goal. It wasn't enough to even get me excited about that. It was like, oh, like in my mind, it was like a lot of things you got to go back to the drawing board, but they get a win and you put it on the record books. And like we said before, a win is a win is a win. So I want your overall takes on this. Is I'll ask you some more questions, maybe a little bit later for the greater, but your overall reactions to the Packers' victory over Chicago yesterday.
A lot of content going on yesterday with the Packers. You got the win. You're guaranteed three things in this life: death, taxes, and the Bears still sucking. It was
Yeah.
it was beautiful. The demonic cackle that came out of my body when that kick got blocked was just rich. It's just
Oh.
rich stuff. But no, absolutely, we did not deserve to win that game. If the Bears are coming within, 5 points of you and you want to be a playoff team, that's not a good day. They just got routed by the Patriots last week. This is not a team that you want to play close. I will say their new play caller, they came in with a game plan offensively to get the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands really quickly. I think that was a good way to play against us. And I think he is keeping his job as their play caller going forward. They came out with a decent game plan, but our defense did us no favors. Offense did us no favors. So going into the game, I wanted to place a couple bets, Cody, right? And I'm thinking, I've been pretty good with the Bucks this year. When the Bucks play a good guard, you can always bet on that guard's points over. We can't guard guards. So I'm thinking, what do the Packers always struggle with? Oh, it's been running quarterbacks my whole life. It takes 5 minutes, and Caleb Williams is running all over us. It's third down conversions, it's long second downs, and it's just been crushing us. And so you can take it two ways. And I'm going to take the angle of rather than, crushing the defense, because I think we will crush the defense plenty today. I want to see Jordan Love start doing this. Rushing quarterbacks are just lethal, man. It's crazy. If you can have a 3rd and 5 and you can have that option to get out and scramble a little bit, I want to see Jordan Love start taking off 7 to 10 times a game. He's young. He's an athlete. He's a $60 million quarterback. Defense did not play great. I'm ready to see Jordan Love start being a $60 million man.
I'm going to argue with that. And because he's a $60 million man, I will say no. I do not want him running outside of the pocket 7 to 10 times a game. We saw him run outside of the pocket to go and try to score that one touchdown when, like, that at times he takes off. He takes off just as much as I think he needs to, which
Mhm.
I see him and what he's capable of. You can run around as much as Rodgers does. That is never going to be in the game plan for Aaron Rodgers to go and take off with the ball. I don't want to see Jordan Love do that. I don't want to see designed read options. That's just not where you're going to maximize Jordan Love's capability. I would like to see maybe a little bit more scrambling, but I don't want it to be a designed kind of idea. I will
Here's,
say that. I do got to push back on that.
here's the thing. I think I would love to agree with you. And if he was throwing 303 touchdowns every single game, I'd be all there with you. But he's not. Like, he's not throwing enough to be a dynamic Brett Favre style bomb of a quarterback. He's not earning the right to throw a pick a game. I think we've got to find a pivot here. Is he going to be a gunslinger? Then he's got to start throwing 303 tuds.
Okay, so what I will say about Jordan Love's game yesterday, he was 13 for 17, 261. He had a touchdown, and he did have the one interception. And the interception, I won't even call a dummy interception because that wasn't a mental thing. That was a physical interception. He had his guy open. He had the right read. That's probably the one I can feel one of the most comfortable about, aside from the ones that literally weren't his fault, like almost at all. Like this one feels a lot better than the one where it's like, Jordan, why are you throwing it there? This was a, oh, shoot, that one slipped, which physical errors, you can't, you don't want to put it on the player. I don't want to put it on the player. I'm going to say I'm more okay with a physical error from Jordan Love than a mental error because he's understanding what's going on. Other than that, like if you give him the completion there, he has 3 incompletions all game yesterday. I thought he was very efficient. I thought he played a really good game. They had the one turnover on downs, and then they had one punt, and they had the interception. Those are the only 3 drives that Green Bay did not score yesterday. The red zone offense, I'm going to put more of the fault on that on Matt LaFleur and the play calling. Like he gets too cute when he doesn't need to, and then when he can get a little cute, he just hands it off on a 2-point conversion to Josh Jacobs to get stuff behind the line of scrimmage. I will put more of that on the play calling. I'm okay with where Love was. Yes, I do really badly want to see one game without an interception.
Just
But
one. Just one.
I just want just get something going here, which I thought it was a very good game for Jordan Love yesterday, aside from the one throw, which I'm not going to call it a dummy throw. I'm going to call it an oh crap throw. Like you throw it and you see it sailed a little bit. That happens. Physical errors do happen. We saw in the Chiefs and Bills game yesterday from both quarterbacks. They both had a oh crap kind of throw where it kind of slipped, didn't go where it wanted to go, which Jordan Love really hasn't had a lot of those. A lot of them have been the mental ones, which were a lot more concerning for us Packer fans to watch him just like not understand what he was supposed to do in the offense at times. I think yesterday he understood what he needed to do. I would have liked for him on that 4th down to throw the ball instead of trying to go in and run it because there is no harm if that thing gets picked off, which that might have been something in his head too, where he's trying to keep it away from harm's way, trying to keep the ball away from harm's way. You saw him try to take off. That I would have been okay with him just chucking it up and saying a prayer because at
So
that point, who's it going to hurt?
do you like the bomb to Christian Watson, the 48-yard bomb to Watson? I thought that was a bad throw, but that was a 1st and 10 when you don't need to be making that chuck. And then he gets to a 4th down when it is time to chuck one. I'm waiting for something on.
What all? Okay, this is where I'll give it to him. He's got his deep seam route, and your receiver goes and waves his hand and says, I'm open. Give it to him. Have that confidence. And this is the one breakout game for Christian Watson this year. And a lot of that was because of the trust that Jordan Love had in him. If he can start to throw it up when your receiver says, hey, just give it to me. If he's waving his arm, you got to have your trust in your guy. If you put it in a good spot that he's going to go and get it. And he saw it a couple times yesterday. So you could say bad throw or not, but the safety, he's got his head turned. He doesn't know what's happening. Watson's able to get in front of that ball. You can say bad throw, but I'm okay with that one because he's making those happen more than he's not. Like I don't know. His deep ball still looks really good. And this time Christian Watson didn't stop and jump really early, which we saw against the Detroit game. So he led his guy, he went out there, he got it. And a beautiful catch at the end of the game there for Christian Watson, too, which Bears fans are just really complaining about on Twitter. And I don't want to hear that because they sent it to review and the NFL said it was a catch, which, I mean, if they would have said it's not a catch and then took it to review, I would have been okay with them keeping it not a catch. But the fact that they called it a catch and took it to review, I still think it's a catch. And then where Chicago Bears fans are also arguing that there was leverage on the field goal block or whatever, like they're saying that there should have been a penalty called on that. No, absolutely not. That was a blocked field goal. Santos has to get that ball up. That's the fault of that play. Those are kind of my overall takes. I thought Josh Jacobs had a really good day, 18 carries, 76 yards. He had the touchdown. I think he could have been used even a little bit more. That 2nd and 1 inside the red zone where they tried the pass play, had the penalty called on him, got backed up. That's when Jordan Love threw that interception. You hand the ball to Jacobs inside the 5, 2nd and 1. You get a 1st down, then you get 4 more shots at the end zone. They tried to get cute, pass with it, and backed him up, and then Love threw the interception. I like the Josh Jacobs workhorse kind of thing. You only had to throw the ball at Jordan Love 17 times yesterday and still had 261 passing yards. Like, that's the kind of play calling that I like to see out of this Green Bay offense. If they have to lean on Josh Jacobs, go do it. That's kind of where my stance is on that.
I love the Josh Jacobs. I love that we used him in the passing game a little bit more, and I'm really excited for when we can pair that with Tucker Craft. Because now you've got a dynamic player coming out of the backfield and a dynamic tight end. And I said it after the Lions game, if Christian Watson's hands can, if he can start catching the ball, this guy is a weapon. If we can use him properly, like we're starting to see the pieces and we're all seeing them a little bit individually. We had a couple craft games. We know Reed can be dynamic. Josh Jacobs is a study and reminds us every single week. Love Josh Jacobs on this team. Love Aaron Jones. Josh Jacobs is winning me over. And Christian Watson, now he's going to be dynamic. Love is looking a little bit better. His knee is looking a little bit better. I'd love to see him stop. And Tom Brady was talking about this a little bit. He's leaning back on a lot of these throws. And that's why you see some of these balls sailing. That it's very blatant, it's physical. If he leans in and drives the ball a little bit, the guy's an athlete. He's a big, strong kid. If he starts really forcing it and not leaning back, I love that he can do that back foot little hop Aaron Rodgers throw. There's a reason that Brady is the GOAT, because he was standing there and just delivering a precise hot ball. I got some notes on the defense. Defensive line was like dog water, not good.
Yeah.
Got zero push. And when the secondary is weak, that's not complimentary football. Did Stokes get injured? He played 4 snaps.
He's bad. That's why he's not playing. He's not a good football player anymore. I'm sorry. Like I'm not gonna be cute around that anymore. Like, no, he does not belong to be starting on an NFL field anymore. He has no step.
Jair's hurt. Stokes is bad. We got Valentine and a kick return specialist, Nixon guarding Odunze, their first round pick on a third and third and 1. That's not Nixon's job. I'm sorry. Love Keyshawn Nixon for what he's doing. He should not be guarding. And why is that when we're calling the blitz? Like, I think that's a time when you got to make Williams beat you and, throw a precise ball. I think we waited all week long. Third and 4, you talked a little bit about play calling. We were 1 for 5 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. I don't know if that's on LaFleur, if that's on the offensive coordinator, where that's coming from. We do all this eye candy in the middle of the field, but then we can't convert on a third or fourth down or on a 2-point conversion. This feels like a game that the Lions would have scored 40. It feels like there's just small little execution things that we've got all the right pieces, but just for one reason or another, we're not getting that fourth down. We're not getting that third down. We're not taking advantage of everything that we can be quite yet.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes to play calling, essentially, which is LaFleur's job, which Adam Stenavich does a lot of really good stuff with the offense, but when it comes to the play calling, he's not at fault. That's LaFleur who's on the sideline. Stenavich is kind of the eyes in the sky, give him suggestions, and then Matt LaFleur is the one who actually sends the play in. So, which I'll always say it about LaFleur, you're going to get so much more good than you're going to get bad. It's just nobody's perfect. And there are times, and I think even going for it there, when you were inside the red zone, I think you kind of take your points and you take a gamble with that. But he, at points, doesn't like to do that. And sometimes he does when he shouldn't. So there's just sometimes where it feels like there's a lack of identity in what he wants to do in those crucial moments in a game, which he's still figuring that out himself, which he shouldn't be. He's 5 years into his head coaching career, but you are a 7-3 team, and it feels like this team has not played that well. The defense, you mentioned it before, not good. And this is kind of why I brought it up before. If you don't have Jair Alexander, your cornerbacks are not going to be able to cover a solid wide receiver core. They needed to go and get somebody, I think. It's bad. If you can't even put Eric Stokes out there, you have to put Valentine out there at this point, which Valentine did not play well. I wanted him to play good, and there's a reason why he was not getting the reps that he should have been before. That's because he wasn't really showing up that much in practice, is what I'm thinking and what I'm getting out of all this. Keyshawn Nixon is not. He's not the guy. He's not a guy that should be out there. It was just bad. Quay Walker, once again, horrendous. Oh my gosh, so bad. So many opportunities for a tackle for loss or to stop a hole in the gap. And he looks like an SEC linebacker, like a decent SEC linebacker that is being brought up to the NFL. This is his third year in the NFL, and he looks like a clueless, lost rookie. It is embarrassing. You have Edgerrin Cooper, who right now looks more experienced than him. It is embarrassing what Quay Walker looks like on an NFL field right now. And
That
that is
Roshan,
why Caleb Williams was running around all over. Like, because Quay can't do anything.
the Roshan Johnson touchdown, he met him in the hole and got worked. He got pushed back. Like there was contact, and Roshan just ran straight through him. It's like who was that out there? Is that our
Yeah.
cornerback, or was that Quay Walker, the middle linebacker of the Packers, getting ran the heck over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's the point. And there's the read option play where Williams is right there, and he juked out Quay Walker. He got sent in the opposite direction. And then there's the other play where Walker was right there to go get a sack, and Walker spread his legs and just stuck his arms up instead of going for the tackle, which is like something that you would see out of a high school football player and not someone who's supposed to be a first round pick in the NFL. So Quay Walker looks completely lost. I'm lost on him. Keyshawn Nixon, you can have him as your third corner probably, but when he's out there covering a decent receiver, I have some concerns. Uh, Valentine right now, he's young. I think he's talented, but he's not ready. I think Green Bay's a little bit too short without Jair Alexander. I think your Super Bowl hopes are outside the window. Like there is no shot that Green Bay can stop a team down the stretch with a good quarterback and a good wide receiver core if Jair Alexander is not on the field. That's my overall takeaway from that. Yeah. Any final thoughts here on the Packer game? Of course, we'll ask a couple of questions coming up in a little bit, but just some final thoughts.
We'll get back to it later. I think your closing statement's right. We're a good team now. With this defensive backfield and with the defense looking like it is, and with Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams looking like they are, there's a ceiling on this team right now.
Yep.
There's a ceiling.
Yep. No Super Bowl shot with those guys playing like that. None at all. First round playoff exits. It was not a good game yesterday, but Bears still suck. The Packers win 7-3. I mean, as bad as we're talking, this team is 7-3, and they're gonna have a good shot when it gets to the playoffs. All right, here we go. Badgers football taking number one Oregon down to the wire. A game-ending interception from Braden Locke to a defensive tackle. It was tipped up in the air. This was a game that Braden Locke was 12 for 28, 96 passing yards, had one touchdown, one interception. The defense played so well against this Oregon offense. I think that's the biggest story is that the defense showed up and the offense was so horrendous that Phil Longo, as you can tell by my name here on Zoom, so Longo, good riddance, is no longer the offensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers. I think you take a lot of positives from this. I think Wisconsin football fans should be happy. You see that the direction of the team is not where it wanted to go. The defense showed up, which they didn't against Iowa just a couple of weeks ago. So I have no idea what's going on and what they said in the locker room to get these guys fired up to play against a team that is going to compete for a national championship. But they were there and they made Camp Randall rock on a Saturday night. It was really enjoyable. You'd love for them to come out with a win, but I'm taking a lot more positives away than negatives.
Huge game for the Badgers. The program needed this so badly. This team was going downhill and we were fighting for mediocrity. And then that Iowa loss, just a shot in the heart. Needed this. Camp Randall was a party. I sent you a message. There was a -14 line on Oregon earlier in the day. I kind of wanted to put everything I own on it.
I said free money. I said I said that's just free money. You're gonna win it.
It really should have been. No, this is a big game for the team. Unlucky interception. You hate to see something like that where G's defense swats it, ends up at the right guys in the right spot at the right or wrong guys the wrong spot at the right time. something like
Yep.
that. But yeah, you love to see it. Came down to the final drive. We had a couple chances at the end of the game. And watching that game, their defense, the Badgers defense, played as one unit. We talked about the Packers. Everybody's struggling, whether it's, you finally get a little bit of push, but then your secondary's not there. The linebackers weren't there, so the secondary coverage doesn't matter. The Badgers defense looked like one unit, and that's what shows up when you play a long game. And this is why we love the Big Ten. This is why it's cool to have Oregon in the Big Ten, because we're gonna have some of these big games every single year. That's gonna be a slow, ugly one, and anybody's got a chance to beat anybody. I love the Big Ten. This is beautiful football.
I think so too. Like you're gonna see multiple Big Ten teams in the playoff. Like the expanded playoff makes me much more comfortable with an 18 team Big Ten because before
Yeah.
it was really you have to win the conference, which I'm sorry, Wisconsin's chances of winning the Big Ten are much smaller, I think, than them even winning a national championship, which is kind of crazy to say. But once you
That's
get into the
so
playoff now, like it's a little bit crazy. The Big Ten, when it gets to that Big Ten title game, it's just tough. It is nails when you get in there, which I don't know what this 12 team playoff is going to look like and how things are going to play out, but I feel like there is going to be a Cinderella team or two that shows up. And I feel like if Wisconsin down the road, of course, it's not going to be this year, can sneak in as a top 12 team, which would have happened a lot in years prior. And this would have been like even Paul Chris teams, they would have been in that college football playoff. There were a lot of really good teams that would have competed for a national title in Madison if it were an expanded playoff format. Now they have that opportunity. And I think they're going back and they're looking and saying, okay, you have these big, strong offensive linemen. You should have a run game. Both of those things are outside here in Wisconsin. These are the things that you and I talk about all the time. The identity was gone. And I think a lot of that was down to Phil Longo and what he wanted to do and what he wanted to bring here at Wisconsin. His system worked at different places in the country. In Wisconsin, that's not what the recruiting has been ever. It is your big, tough guys. You're going to run the football. And I think a lot of those Wisconsin teams that I talked about before that could have competed for a national title would have been right there if you have a quarterback. So if you can kind of take a step back a little bit, go a little bit more towards that identity, and then lean on Fickle's recruiting game to go out and get a mid-level quarterback that can just do his job, I think this Wisconsin program can get right back to where it wanted to be.
Absolutely. Last week I said we're 4 or 5 years away, and you laughed at me, and this is why. Because it takes 1 week in Big Ten football, get some talent out there. This Badger team will be here. They're here to stay. Let's stop losing to Iowa when we're 5-5.
Yeah,
And let's play some good games and get some talent on the field. Badgers basketball, heck of a week too.
absolutely. Yeah, that's the big one. We had that coming up next, but a 103-88 victory over number 9 Arizona. I think my biggest takeaway is that UW River Falls is greater than Arizona. All jokes aside here, though, 41 points for John Tonje. I think I said it. It was 16 minutes left to go in the second half, and Wisconsin was already at 65. And I said, I think this is going to be the first time in my life I'm going to see a Wisconsin basketball team go over 100 points. And they did. I didn't think that they were capable of playing that fast paced, but they did. And they just did it a little bit harder than Arizona did. Huge win for Wisconsin basketball. And it set up that Wisconsin football game. That could have been the coolest weekend in Madison, maybe ever, if the Badgers football team could have pulled it off. But basketball kicking off a great weekend there. Huge win over Arizona, where our hopes were really low after they played River Falls real tight. Now we're sky high. This team, like you saw them go out there and play an Arizona team that is super athletic and always finds their way deep into a playoff run. Wisconsin basketball is back, baby.
That's exactly what you want to see for a team that expects to be in the hunt in March, but we're not looking to be a top 6, 7, 8, 9 seed right now, but we're always looking to be in the hunt. If you got a guy like Tonje who can put on a show when the lights are bright and you can get through the first weekend in March, there can be some magic happening. We've seen a team step up to the plate. They played good defense. They hit some threes and they got a guy. I mean, what else do you really look for when March is coming around? Um, Arizona shot 4 for 23 from three. I don't think you can bank on that happening.
Right.
Every time you play a top 25 team. And Tanjay shot 4 for 6. So it took him 6 shots to make all the threes that Arizona made for the game. But yeah, pace of play was awesome. Seeing a team score 100 points. And Longo's gone. I think Badgers offenses are looking up, which hasn't been the case for quite some time. So you love to see a little bit of a new age style coming in here.
Absolutely. And where AJ Storr left the Badgers, you have an athlete like Tanjay that stepped in. This is a kid that was in Colorado State. This is going to be his 6th year playing college basketball because he's dealt with a lot of injuries over his career. 2 years ago, he averaged 14.6 a game for Colorado State. This is a kid that has always been capable of scoring and someone you want to see in that Wisconsin lineup. Kind of one of those unsung heroes there for Colorado State before, but now he steps into a Wisconsin program that right now look like they're ready to run it where it stands right now, which of course you got a lot of season left, but starting it off hot, getting all our expectations high just so they can go tear them down at the end of the season. That's what they're doing for us.
Absolutely.
So we can go right to the Bucks here. I know Sam, you got a couple of notes, but they had a really tough loss to the Hornets. They lost by 1 point. They dropped to 4-9. There was a play called on Giannis there, a foul called that the NBA actually after the game said that they messed that call up. So and that essentially led to the Bucks losing. And then LaMelo Ball saying some stuff after the game, getting fined $100,000 for a homophobic slur. A lot of stuff going on here. We'll make it a little bit quick here, but your overall take on the Bucks, where they're at, where they're going, how are you feeling?
Feeling good about the Bucks. Would have loved to see Giannis hit the game winner. If he's pulling a long mid range for a game winner, it would have been a sweet shot to watch go in. I loved Doc sounding off on the refs. The ref, you hate to, be that. I don't want to be that guy. You want to win it in regulation. You don't want the refs to determine the outcome. The refs have been screwing the Bucks. This is a terrible week to be a Bucks fan with the refs. Dame got elbowed in the head by a ref and concussed him. The game against Detroit, I didn't think that was a foul at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Is the hand part of the ball? Is it not? Are we really ending a game on 2 free throws? Right, like so that was messed up. Even in the Hornets game, we used our 2 challenges on two that I think the one that failed should have been reversed. There was 3 terrible calls in the last 2 minutes of a close game. And then you're going to mess the one up on Giannis when LaMelo just falls. I love Doc sounding off. Doc took the fine. He knew he was going to get fined. That was my favorite Doc Rivers moment that I've seen him as the Bucks coach. So we've got a pretty easy schedule coming up. Winnable games. They're going to be good games. Got a good game against the Rockets tonight. Then we're seeing the Bulls and the Hornets this week, along with a big game against the Pacers. So Friday's going to be a sweet cup game. But ship's not sinking. We're an experienced team. Wheels are rolling. 59-14 from Giannis, dude. Let's go. Bucks are good. We're fine.
He's a monster. They take on Houston tonight at Fiserv at 7. We'll go right into the cheese grater and we'll rattle these ones off here. My first question here for Sam. How does this Bears game make you feel about the Packers moving forward? Overall.
Not great. Not great. I think it was 2 steps back, to be honest with you. Really not stoked about it. And you'll hear more when I predict the headline for next week. Is this an indicting performance on the front office's part for not signing someone before the deadline?
No, because nobody really did. Your really only big market moving cornerback was Marshawn Lattimore, a guy who has also dealt with a lot of injuries. I think if there would have been a Rasul Douglas type of player for them to go out and get, I think they would have. I just don't think he was there. I think this goes back to not drafting a kid late in the draft and trying to develop him and getting him ready at this point. I don't think you can rely on the trade deadline. So I don't fault him for that, but I think cornerback is going to be the top highest priority when it comes to this offseason. Does Phil Longo's firing make you more or less excited about the future of Badgers football?
More. It needed to happen. We've been talking about it for, all season long. Since week one of this pod, the offense has to, get a little bit of revitalization going on. So really excited for the direction that we're going. Happy to see that, change needed to happen and they're proactive about it. So you just mentioned about a corner, but I think this team's kind of ready to win now. What position are we going to draft in the first round?
I still think it's cornerback. I
Yeah.
really do. I think corner, possibly edge rusher, because the Lucas Van Ness project is almost to Quay Walker levels. It's bad. I had a lot of high hopes going in here. Super athlete like Quay Walker, but there's not that finisher type of mentality that you're seeing from Van Ness. So I'm going either edge rusher or cornerback. You're set at safety. I think you're excited about what you have at linebacker and Cooper. You definitely might be in conversation there as well, but you're going defense once again. It's what Green Bay always does. I'll say cornerback because there is a glaring need there. You got to be able to lock down the number 2 and number 3 receiver. How
Zero
confident?
tackles, zero tackles from Van Ness this past weekend. They ran it 34 times. He had zero tackles.
Yeah, yeah, embarrassing, bad, unacceptable. How confident are you in the Packers against San Fran next Sunday? And actually, I'm asking that, but you said it'll be in your headline, so I'll actually save that for then. You can go on to your last question.
My last question, leaving the cheese a little bit, is there a sneaky path for Bo Nix to be rookie of the year?
Ooh, yes. I don't even know how sneaky it is. I think
Really?
Oh, okay. Jaden Daniels, of course, right now is the huge favorite, but
Mhm.
you have a stretch here at the end, which I think Bo Nix is picking it up at a level that he could compete. There is a path. I think Washington was really hot. I don't think the team is as great as their record looks right now. They should have lost that game against Chicago, but they pulled off a lucky one at the end with a Hail Mary. I think Denver could be right there. I think Bo Nix is a really solid player. And I think Drake May is a really good quarterback too, man. He was kind of slinging it against LA. This is a good rookie quarterback class. I think you have 4 guys that are going to start for a very long time. Uh, so we'll move the needle here. The Munster of the week. My Munster, this one, it comes off, it feels a little bit obvious, but you have to go Carl Brooks as he blocked that field goal against Chicago. Without Carl Brooks there getting his hand up, Green Bay loses their first time since what, 2017 against Chicago Bears, but the fingertip of Carl Brooks keeping that streak alive. A beautiful field goal block.
Shout out to Carl Brooks. He is a Munster of the week. I went around the league with my Munster of the week. I think you got to give it to Taysom Hill. Career day for the guy. For someone who's been in the league 7, 8 years now, he's been a workhorse type of guy. He's the picture of, you're not going to be a maybe all-star receiver. You work hard, you get minutes, you earn snaps. If you're so good, they can't ignore you. You're going to stay in the picture. I hope a lot of football players are inspired by what Taysom Hill did this past weekend. 3 touchdowns, 150 yards. Threw a couple balls, caught some balls, ran it, got in the end zone. I love the Taysom Hill stuff. That's awesome. Big fan.
Former Green Bay Packer, Taysom Hill, getting it done out there is the biggest Swiss Army knife I've ever seen on an NFL field. We'll move on to our headline predictions. I last week said that Shane Waldron and Eberflus were going to be fired. Shane Waldron was fired before. So
Nailed it.
I think I was 50% right there. I thought Love was going to have himself a day, which aside from the one interception, I thought was a really solid day for Jordan Love. But my headline prediction for this week is Purdy rolls over the Packers. Questions on defense continue to arise.
Deja vu. Love throws 2 picks. Carlson misses kick. Pat go down 24-21 to the Niners.
Carlson drilled a 60-yarder this past week. Did you see that?
I saw that. I think he's due for a couple of misses from inside 32 then.
I want to see a clean game out of Love. He had all the mental parts down, I think, this week. He had the mental parts to not throw an interception, just had one sail a little bit over on Tucker Kraft, which was the perfect read. I think if he has that ball right on Kraft, you have a first down inside the 5. And I'm sure we have a lot more of a positive conversation about that game today, if it is not about that, because that changed the momentum, put the ball back in Williams' hands. They were able to go down and score right before half. And at that point, you were about to go up 14-3. then you go down 10-7, like that makes the locker room conversation entirely different. But as we kind of wrap things up here, I want to ask Sam's final thoughts. Anything going into the week? What are you looking for? What are you happy about? What are you sad about?
Really excited for this Bucks Pacers game on Friday night. They cooked us last year in the playoffs and in the NBA Cup. That's what I'm really excited to see this week. It's going on Friday night. Got some fun courts, fun jerseys. Bucks are coming back. It's time for some big wins from the boys.
Think so as well. And watch this Badgers basketball team continue to roll. They got a cupcake kind of schedule going on for this week. So not any big games, but yes, we'll continue to watch the Bucks as they're trying to scratch and claw their way back from 4-9, which in an 82 game season, they can definitely do that. And they're playing a lot better than they started off the season. So I think that's going to end things for us on this Monday. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. We'll see you back next week. I'll have a show later this week on Friday, presumably either Thursday or Friday, however my schedule works it out. We'll have one to get you ready for the NFL games, but we'll see you once again next Monday with Sam for NFL Reaction Monday, as this has been another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.